Welcome to Monoreel Radio Dockside Chat number 37. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are coming to you live from Dockside Margaritas here at Disney Springs. The weather is heating up, and that encouraged us to get frozen margaritas, which we don't always do because, typically speaking, as good as they are, the flavors don't really change. You have the traditional lime, you have the mango, you have the strawberry, but leave it to the magic at Dockside Margaritas to keep us on our toes. And you were the most excited for this.
I was, because I was so torn, because for the 6th month running, my beloved Chipotle Pineapple is the quote-unquote seasonal margarita. And as I said last month, please stop teasing me, just put it on the regular menu. But it is very hot, though not crowded.
It's not crowded at all.
This is probably the last week we have crowd-free before the kids are out of school in the Northeast, because we did get Lime Garage. But back to the margaritas at hand. I was very torn because I wanted a frozen one, and my new favorite bartender, Aaron, saw my struggle. So he said, hey, we can mix and match the frozen flavors. And I was like, can you do it with the Chipotle Pineapple? So he did a frozen lime margarita, and then just put the Chipotle Pineapple syrup in. And I'm the happiest, and I can't wait to try it. So cheers.
Cheers. And I did layer the strawberry and the mango frozen margarita.
Ooh, I'm so happy right now.
I've not gotten a sip yet.
Mine's like melting already. Oh, that's so good.
The problem, I think, is that there's a chunk of ice in my straw. Hang on. Nope, there is no chunk of pineapple. There's no chunk of ice in the straw.
You have a hole in your straw?
I have a hole in the straw.
Well, if you want another straw, why don't you go grab one? Because I just want to, once again, show my appreciation for Aaron and the level of service. And I just also want to say that that's what you get, Michael Villarelli, when you patron a place often enough and you appreciate their floor renovations. That's the level that they will meet you with. All right, so here comes Sean, jogging back with his straw. Don't slip on the new floors. They've still got that sheen.
Yeah, I ran because I was afraid of what you were saying while I was gone.
It's all right. I was pretty well behaved.
I guess I'll find out when we release the episode.
Just like Mike.
Oh, you did that, huh? This is really good.
I told you I was going to do it.
Well, layered, frozen, nice and refreshing. Nobody had ever offered to do that before. So, this is a nice little treat. And, I think if they layer it the right way, it would be very similar, if not exactly the same as the Fiesta Margarita over at Epcot.
Yes.
So that's kind of a hack that I'm just learning, is if you wanted that at Epcot and the line was so long that you could technically get it here.
Right, because they would probably have the lime as the third flavor.
Yes.
I'm just a little bit taken aback what you're saying about just figuring that out, because nobody knows how to layer a drink better than you.
But I've never
back in the day, Sean used to make Ninja Turtle shots, and by Ninja Turtle shots, I mean he figured out how to float the bandana colors either above or below the green. To make the Ninja Turtles. It was glorious.
It took a lot of work.
And they were tasty, but you're still not my favorite bartender.
Yeah, I'm getting used to that. Anyway, let's maybe talk about some of our favorite experiences here. I won't be the favorite bartender, but perhaps we can make a new favorite memory. I'm just reaching for the sky at this point. All right, let's start getting into all the fun things we have to talk about on this Dockside Chat this month.
This episode is sponsored by Hidden Mickey Supply Co. Products include Disney and Pixar-inspired 3D straw charms, ornaments, and personalized photo nightlights. Listeners of Monoreel Radio can get a 10% discount with using the code Monoreel10 at checkout. Visit Hidden Mickey Supply Co. on Instagram and Etsy to stay up to date on all of the new releases. All right, so we're going to start out with a what we're watching. Spoiler alert, it's not Snow White yet. We did consider it, but to be honest with you, we weren't drunk enough
to take that on. Truth.
Yeah, no, and we didn't want to keep drinking because we had to get up early the next morning. But it's coming. We might just do the whole enchilada and do the full episode review before we discuss it on a Dockside chat. But what we did do was go and see Lilo and Stitch in theaters. And I dare say, I finally see the hype behind Lilo and Stitch. I think for me, what I don't love about the animation was it was in that era of like post-Renaissance experimental Disney. And I feel like for the same reasons I don't love Treasure Planet, because there's not consistency among like the aliens or anything that's not a human. I just don't love that. But we also were very critical of the animation because we found Lilo to be bratty and Stitch to be destructive for destruction's sake. But what I really liked about the live action was it was more cat and mouse, and that the destruction that Lilo and Stitch caused was because they were on the run from Pleakley and Jumbo. And I know that Pleakley was a big point of contention for a lot of people, and I totally understand why. But I feel like to do the live action and not have so much CGI, because it's a given that Stitch is going to be CGI.
Right.
While I understand why people are upset, I do feel like this was a pretty good solve.
I absolutely loved Lilo and Stitch. I don't like Lilo and Stitch, the animated version, for the reason you just mentioned, which is that I don't like Stitch. Stitch is destructive in spite of himself. He's just a bad boy, and not in like a endearing way. Like, he's just a bad character. And by the time he realizes how bad he is, it's sort of too late. Without spoiling too much, this Stitch with Lilo, it's not that he caused trouble because he's a bad character or a bad, I don't want to say person, he's not a person, but he's not a bad entity. It's that it's more like we've all been there, right? When you and your friends start having fun and it turns into acting up and you accidentally go one step too far.
Right.
That's what this was. I bought it. I fell in love with this version of Stitch. I thought that it was great. I thought that it was close enough to the animated version where if you are a fan of the animated version, I think that you would enjoy it. And they change it just slightly enough where I think they make it a little bit more modern. And I also think that for somebody that didn't love that original version, I think they brought it up a little bit. I think that this actually had, frankly, I think this movie had a lot more heart than the animated version did. So I think that there's just so much going for it. I absolutely loved it. I can't wait for it to drop on Disney Plus. I never thought I'd say this about Lilo and Stitch. I can't wait for it to drop on Disney Plus because I'm going to watch this one over and over and over again.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is for me, this one has the rewatchability. I don't want to spoil the ending for those that haven't seen it yet, but I had a lump in my throat at the end of it, which the animation never does for me. I was fully invested emotionally. And I do like the updates with Noni. I know that was, again, another point of contention for a lot of people because you sort of lose the Ohana theme that is so strong and so... I mean, that's the whole crux of the animation, right? But I think it was a good modern take on it, I dare say.
It was excellent. And it's doing really well in the box office.
It is. It very much is.
It is possible that the only drawback, I hate to say it, the only drawback to it being so good is that I think we're going to keep seeing live-action remakes, which I would like to take a step away from. But if they're going to make them like this, I'm fine with it. This feels like a live-action remake that sort of took a step back to the live-action versions that we were getting years ago when they first started doing this, where they were sort of expanding on an idea more than trying to fix something or just do a shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah, or make changes for change's sake and not because they served the story.
Yeah.
But speaking of shot-for-shot remakes, we are going to get to that a little bit later because I think that is part of a bigger conversation. But let's talk about what we've been up to in and around Orlando. I went up to New York, surprise, surprise, for Memorial Day weekend. Came back the last weekend of May. And we quite literally hit the ground running.
Sure did.
You picked me up from the airport, and we thought that this was the perfect opportunity to go over and check out Epic Universe. However, not how you think. We didn't go in the park. Great hack. We made a reservation at Flora Taverna so that we could see the park up close during the day, and we've heard wonderful things about how pretty it is at night, and that's what we really wanted to check out. We've made mention on the show before that we're not rushing over there. We want to let the hype die down a little bit. We want to let the influencers get through. We want to let the summer crowds get through. And we also want to make sure we get a full day there.
Yes.
Because as we've explained, we usually get 7 to 8 hours out of the house so that we're not leaving our dog Walt hanging. So that gives us about 5 hours of park time.
On
and
average, yes.
To do that with Epic, that would give us about an hour per portal, and it's not worth the spend
It's
at
not
that
enough
point.
time.
So with all that being said, I don't think that we're going to wait per se for the annual pass information to be released. We'll probably do a day ticket at some point, but we're waiting until we do have the opportunity to do a full day there. However, we're only human. Everybody's putting videos out. We got a little excited and we wanted to go see it. So that was our way in. What did you think of the Helios Hotel? The Helios Grand Hotel. I keep saying Grand Helios. It is Helios Grand. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When you think about how much it costs per night to stay there, you're putting it on par with the Contemporary, with the Grand Floridian, in Disney terms. Obviously, Universal's a completely different animal. It's very small, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think Universal knows the audience that they're playing to. Mm-hmm. And I think that by making it as small as they did, you can price it the way they want, because you're not necessarily looking at a hotel that's, if they had made it the size of the Grand Flow, it would never be filled more than 33% per night, maybe 25% per night.
Correct.
Because the price point is quite high. As of right now, pricing per night is reaching upwards of $900.
Right.
Now, do I expect that price to come down? Of course I do. But I think it's supply and demand.
Sure.
So that was a surprise, seeing how small it was, but it made sense. The grounds are beautiful. Mm-hmm. They are definitely doing their best to prevent people from just finding parking hacks.
Yes.
I think it is noteworthy. Now, because we ate at Flora Taverna and we did a full meal, we spent about $100. We did get our parking validated, which we wanted. If you think you're going to go there and order a beer at the bar and get a validation, you would be wrong.
Yeah.
There is a minimum spend. I don't want to report on that just now because I'm sure that is going to change in time.
And it is different at Flora Taverna versus the spend at Bar Helios, too.
Right. But if you don't hit the spend, the parking was $135.
25.
You're right, $125. Excuse me.
It's still gross, but let's not give misinformation.
But the grounds are beautiful. I do think the hotel is quite nice. It doesn't have the grandeur when you walk in that you're accustomed to going to Disney. Honestly, it doesn't even have... It doesn't have the allure. I stay at Endless Summer a couple of times a year for the Run Disney weekends. over at Universal because it's so much more affordable, for me at least. I even think that lobby's a little bit nicer, so there is something to be said for that. If there's anything that's a letdown there, if you can live with it, the lobbies, you could have been anywhere, you know? But the grounds are beautiful, and Flora took Verna, is where we ate that night, as you just said. And I think that for its money is a very, very, very good restaurant. It's got like a Mediterranean flair to it, so not your typical chicken finger French fry Caesar salad restaurant. It's not that. It is unique. But for what we ate, which is funny because I did have a burger, but it was with sort of a Grecian flair.
Right.
I thought that the quality for the money was phenomenal. And I think that the smartest thing about that restaurant is that, other than being different from your typical restaurant at any theme park or hotel, is that the menu blended perfectly with the theming of the hotel and the theming of Helios and how it works with Epic Universe.
Very cohesive, yeah. I agree with everything that you're saying. I think what struck me most when we first pulled up was that we've been hearing for months how Epic is going to be down the block from Universal proper, and that we're going to be shuttling back and forth. Wow, hop off. I've been distracted by this slow jam of Purple Rain the entire time, and I'm trying to block it out, but this is so good. This band has been really good.
This is Rexine playing over at the big stage.
Worth noting, too, Dockside Margaritas, the guitarists are usually playing until like 8 o'clock. They're cutting them off. The last set is at the 6 o'clock hour. I'm wondering if that will change during summer hours, but as of now, another adjustment that we've noticed. That's what happens when you come here often, Michael. Anyway, you're hearing a lot about Epic being so far away from the parks and the rest of the hotels. It's really not. You can see Volcano Bay very easily. I imagine that during 5 o'clock when people are getting out of work, it's going to get a little congested. It's going to feel like it's a little bit further away, but it doesn't feel like it's, on the other end of Orlando. It does still very much feel like it's a part of one property. And the Helios Grand Hotel, and then you have Stella Luna, I knew I was going to do it. That's a book. Stella Nova and Terra Luna. They are like right next to it. So it is kind of its own hub, but it doesn't feel like it's its own world.
Yes.
I think that the Helios Grand Hotel, I agree with you, it wasn't as grand and impressive as I thought it was going to be. I thought, just from the pictures and being that you are charging what you're charging, you're doing that for proximity, right? Like, this is the equivalent of a monorail hotel. You're paying to be that close to the park. I was expecting a little bit more grandeur for the price. And I actually think that the Grand Destino Tower is more grand than this is. But I will say, very efficient use of the space.
Yes.
Because since you can't build out, you can only build up. And you are smack against the back of that park. To a point where, and I think that this is worth noting too, if you go to the restaurant, there is a little deck where you can get up close to the fountain, and there are walking trails, but the walking trails are part of the park. You really can't go down and get close up. Again, smart use of the space. Instead of having the security gate outside of the hotel before you go in, it is in the hotel. So there's no waiting in the hot sun in the morning before you go in.
It's totally shaded.
That is a nice amenity to be able to go down to your lobby and then have your park access. Lots of places to sit. For as small as the lobby was, there was plenty of seating in there at the restaurant, and then we did walk over to the pool area, which again, smart use of the space because that's kind of on the side of the hotel since the back is the park. If you're thinking Boy Meets World, it's like Feeney's on the side yard, you know?
But they did a good job of doing the landscaping in such a way that you don't know you're right next to the parking lot.
Correct. And also lots of seating over there. However, this was only accessible because we had that reservation. What I'm hearing is that it's really not accessible if you're going to Epic for the day and then you want to stroll up to the hotel. You really can't get to the hotel without a reservation, be it a room or be it the dining reservation. I think that's worth noting. Like, this isn't like, you know, if you're leaving Magic Kingdom and you want to saunter over to the Contempo and maybe sit at the bar.
Outer Rim or something.
Yeah, exactly. There, you would have to have hotel access or a reservation. Which I actually think is smart. Being that the park is new, I'm sure they might become a little bit more lenient as time goes on. But for now, they are trying to protect their hotel guests, and I get that. Agree with you. Restaurant was great. I really, really liked it. I thought the pricing was absolutely reasonable for where it is. Bar Helios, though, those cocktails were a bit more pricey. They do serve almost the same menu, but there's a few more small bites and a few more, more like lounge dishes. But some of the things you can get upstairs that are on the menu downstairs. The views, though. This is where it's at. Plenty of seating up there, both inside and outside. You've got 360 views. One side is facing the sunset, the side that's facing the park. It just looked absolutely incredible. The design of this park, the thoughtfulness that went into it. I know everybody's complaining that there's not a lot of shade. They are new trees. They will grow. You can see them. You can see trees, but they have to get a little bit bigger. It was just a lot to take in. And I don't know if that was because of the newness or if it's because, like, I mean, my takeaway, I think that they have really taken a lot of feedback from over the years of theme park goers. I think that they've listened to what people are complaining about when it comes to Disney, and they made adjustments. And I'm not going to say that they reinvented the wheel, but they clearly took feedback into account, and it was very clear where they were very thoughtful and where they really invested the money into giving everybody what they want.
You know, we were there within the first week that Epic was open, just to sort of set the timeline. I think they were smart. You know, you could see from Bar Helios, with that 360 view, you could see that the parking lot was about a third full. I think Universal's been smart in capping the attendance so that they can, you know, manage expectations and then also manage crowd flow and demand. I think that that's all been very smart. The park looks smaller from the top of that hotel, but you can see where... You go ahead and sit there. Go ahead. You can see where...
Just the one here. Thank you.
Okay, you got it.
Okay.
But you can see where the thoughtfulness of that system is, because most Universal hotels don't have the hub and spoke system that Magic Kingdom has, for example, and that's sort of been something that I think if you're used to being at Disney and then you go to Universal, you don't really hit dead ends at Disney. You hit dead ends at Universal. This is more of that hub and spoke.
For sure.
And the lands look a little narrower. But what they've done is make a good use of the space. You can tell where the forced perspective is. They've pretty broke ground on an expansion. So they're already expanding the park, which is kind of interesting. You've broken ground on an expansion a month into its opening.
We don't know that. That could be employee parking for all we know.
No, it was confirmed that it's an expansion.
By what source?
I don't need to kick people traffic. But the funny thing is that as we were watching it, you could kind of see where they had more room to expand out, which was smart. So I think that once you're in the park, it's going to feel better or feel bigger than it actually is. That's not to say that it's small. It's just to say that when you hear that it's the biggest park that Universal has down here in Central Florida, you think it's going to be super expansive, and it isn't. But they've just made such a smart use of their space. That was the first thing that stood out to me. The other thing that stood out to me, especially as the sun started to set, and you had the God rays that were sort of like raining down specifically on Super Nintendo World. I can't wait to get into this park. Like, it looked great. It looked like something that is fully immersive. I was not personally somebody that believed in the idea of these portals. To me, it sounded like it was... When we heard that they were doing portals, I thought this is like... So this is a hodgepodge, and you found like a BS way to like cover it up.
It's an excuse for IPs. That's what it seemed like, but...
But you can see from the bird's eye view that this was so thoughtfully put together.
Yeah.
That I think that this is going to be a game changer. I think it's going to enhance all of the other attractions down here in Florida. I can't wait to get inside.
Same. But with all that being said, I am happy that we're waiting because, you know, there are a lot of reports of down rides. So I think, you know, if you do have plans to go over the summer, just sort of manage your expectations. And I think, you know, obviously they're going to have to adjust to that sooner rather than later, because once they open it up to full capacity, you know, you have to be able to manage these crowds, and you can't be giving express passes because the Ministry of Magic is down to, you know, thousands of guests for that one day. I also think that that's going to bring the cost of the hotel down a little bit too when they are able to do it to full capacity. But I'm just really excited for what's to come with it, and yeah, I agree with you. I can't wait to get in there.
Let's talk about another dining experience that is not new to us, but was new to the people that we went with, and that was brunch over at Steakhouse 71.
Yes, we had a little bit of a belated Mother's Day / early Father's Day celebration with your parents, and now they have like completed the monorail loop as far as restaurants go. I'm very excited.
No, we've never eaten at Grand Flow with them.
No, I'm thinking of when I went there with your mom to see the gingerbread house.
Yes,
all right, you know what?
so my mother has,
we're going to have to get them
not.
like a little bingo card or something for all of their Disney hotels. That will be really cute.
But we had brunch over at Steakhouse 71. What was interesting was you could tell it was before the schools had let out in the Northeast, and it was the week that the Florida schools had let out, because we had a reservation at like 10:55 in the morning. It was the last reservation you could get before it switched over to the lunch menu. And I'm used to being in Steakhouse 71 where it's quite busy. There were like 4 tables in the place. It was super mellow, super slow.
I don't even think it was fully staffed because like you could see entire sections of it were empty. But with that said, that's not, you know, an indictment on the restaurant, because the food is excellent as always. I mean, I've only ever had one thing. It's Walt's hash.
And you had it again.
The man knew what he was doing, and I don't think that I will ever stray from it.
And my parents and I each had the steak and eggs, which were phenomenal. We got the grits, which were also fantastic.
And I got my cold brew.
Yes.
The espresso cold brew.
And then my dad had a Bloody Mary. My mother and I each had mimosas. And the reason why I bring up how slow it was because it's amazing sometimes how Jackie and I have the same idea without talking to each other before it happens. We hung out.
That's just a nice way of saying how misbehaved we are when it comes to Disney, because
that's true.
This felt like
That's
every
true.
vacation we've ever done. Where it's like, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
We, my parents had to leave to get back to Sarasota to their dog.
And also, since they're on the west side of Florida, like, they do have to contend with I-4, so like,
yes.
They have a little bit more of a drive than we do.
They left, and Jackie and I basically looked at each other and we were like, you know, we could, because we have a little bit of time to kill, walk over to Magic. And as soon as we said that, I was on the app making the park reservation just to make sure that we had one in case we needed one.
Well, the reason that we did that was because we also took them over to the Poly.
Right.
Because they liked that the last time, so we were going over to have a drink at Tambu.
Yes.
And then as we were passing by Magic Kingdom, that's kind of when my wheels started turning. And you even brought it up to me because you had said, what I had said before we moved was that I didn't, with Magic Kingdom especially, I never wanted to just pop in and out. Like, I didn't want to treat it like it's this blasé thing that we can just do anytime. I really wanted to do it for no less than a full day.
Right.
But with all that being said, now that we're here more than 3 years, we really haven't gone to the Magic Kingdom as much as I thought we would at all. In fact, the only time that we ever went in that wasn't a ticketed event for Not So Scary and Very Merry was our last dash to Splash.
Which was also the day I took my doping pictures.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
and we ate at
where your
Tony's.
arm almost broke with that.
Yeah, thanks for that. And we ate at Tony's. It was phenomenal, but it was the only time we had ever gone there, you're right, that it wasn't a ticketed event.
And, it just kind of dawned on me. I was like, well, maybe we should take advantage of it a little more. But what really makes the difference is that we were already parked at Contemporary because we had the dining reservation. That's also what makes it so hard for us to get there, is that when you park at the TTC and have to monorail over, that does eat into your park time.
Yes.
And it's why we don't go as often. It's farther away for us, driving-wise.
Yeah.
So really, where we're normally an hour and 15 door-to-door, this is more like an hour 45 to do a Magic Kingdom park and then get over there. So we were like, it's a 5 or 10 minute walk. What really sold me is it was not excruciatingly hot that day.
That was a beautiful day.
It was overcast. I think it dropped below 80 at one point. It was gorgeous. So we were like, this is kind of a no-brainer. We're just going to go. We're not going to do any attractions. Like, we're not going to see what the wait is for Tron. We're not going to see what Tiana's Bayou is because we haven't done it yet. Like, let's just go and sort of take in Main Street. And then from there, it snowballed into, why don't we take the train? Because it's something we never make the time for. I think the last time we did that train might have been our 2019 vacation.
Yeah.
Just because we had so much breathing room. It was the longest vacation we'd ever done. And I think we did it just because we could. So we were like, that'll be a nice way to take in the park because we haven't seen it in so long. And just take it slow. And it was like the nicest thing.
We took it. It's a 20-minute ride around. We were able to see the entire park, especially the areas that are going to be closing, in the near future with the expansions and the renovations that are going to happen at Magic Kingdom. We figured it was the right time to do it. So we did, and then we strolled up Main Street. We popped into the shops. We did a little window shopping.
At places that we don't normally go, like the Crystal Shop. We never go in there, and I don't think a lot of people go in there because I think what deters them is the $10,000 Cinderella's Castle.
No, that's a $260,000.
My bad.
Because it's worth more than we have remaining on our mortgage.
Yeah, seriously.
That's how I know it's expensive.
It really is. But I think that's what people associate with it, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to go in. But, like, there's a lot of really nice gift ideas. Like, they do engravings on wine glasses or, like rocks glasses and things like that. And I was like, there's a couple of weddings that had I known that this was a thing, I absolutely would have done a gift there. We also had a first, and I can't believe for you,
Mr. Popcorn.
We had not done this ever. We got the Main Street custom popcorn
in the confectionery.
The confectionery.
I've never done it before. I always just I have my bucket, my annual pass holder bucket for $3. They refill it. It's hot salted butter popcorn on Main Street. It's delicious. But I said, you know what, I kind of had my sweet tooth going that day. They hit the pass holder discount there, so I think it was like $10. I ate on that for 3 days. It was so much. Buttery popcorn with your choice of toppings, chocolate, caramel, white chocolate, assorted
chocolate
candies.
drizzles.
It was unbelievable. It was just really, really delicious. I loved it.
I dare say it even made me like popcorn, because for me, I feel like I've probably talked about this on the show before. I don't like movie popcorn, which for as much as I love movies, I know this is like sacrilege. But there's one kind of popcorn I like. It was the one that you got in elementary school, the white cheddar in the bag. That was the only popcorn I've ever eaten in my life, ever. And I have how many movies have we been to where I'm like, that smells so good, let me try yours. And then it's disgusting.
It's not disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Not for you.
This
More
is very
for me.
much for me. I'm getting my own next time. When we go see Starlight, the new parade, at the end of July, maybe August, we'll see how the crowds are. I am getting my own popcorn. I'm going to customize it. I'm very excited for this.
But we did that, and then we caught Festival of Fantasy, and then we got out of there, made it on home in time for the dog, so he wasn't put. Like, it was just like a perfectly planned yet completely unplanned afternoon. I'm glad that we did it, because what dawned on me when we were there is the convenience of being able to get to Magic Kingdom after having brunch, because, to your point, it's an hour and 15 minutes for us to get here to Disney Springs, to get to Epcot. Magic Kingdom, as we drive here, is 3 exits further down, which, sometimes I think people forget how big this is, this piece of property. It makes a big difference. And because you can't just park right there at the park, Magic Kingdom specifically, right? Like, you need to park at the TTC. Then you have to take a tram over and either take a boat or the monorail. Like, it's fun, it's a great time, but it adds a lot of travel time for us. I mean, we're looking at anywhere between 40 minutes to an hour that we lose in the parks when we go to Magic Kingdom, and I think that's really why we don't go there as often as we had initially planned, and that's why this was sort of just a no-brainer to do it.
There's a lot of ways to get tripped up, but this is my favorite kind of spontaneity, is planned spontaneity.
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about something that was planned and not at all spontaneous, and that was a reservation that we made months ago.
As soon as it was announced, I did it. We are, of course, talking about the closure of Muppets Courtyard.
For now.
For now.
I have theories.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of theories. When we did our last dash of Splash, that wasn't anywhere near the closing date. We just did it because it was January. We knew the crowds would be low. And as much as I wanted to,
she's doing Eye to Eye.
I hear it. I think that song is like so ingrained in me. I didn't realize it at first, and I was like, oh, wait a second.
I've never heard an artist here do a song from Goofy Movie.
We've heard covers before, but like, they're popular songs. Like, we were here and we were like, oh, Guardians of the Galaxy, but like, James Gunn picked out hugely popular songs from that era.
Yeah, he took songs from ELO and put them in this movie. That's not the same thing.
But yeah, I don't know that we've ever heard like a hardcore Disney cover.
Well, we're hearing
There's
it now.
probably listeners that are like screaming at the podcast right now because they're like, what are you talking about? We've heard, the Descendants in the background or something like that. What were we? Muppets. Yeah, I think I was saying that for Splash Mountain, as much as we were sad to see it go and we wanted to get our last ride, we were not doing doorbusters the last day.
And that was weeks.
We knew it was going to be
weeks before they closed
absolute chaos. We were like, we're not waiting in a line all day. This is a little bit different. It's a show. It can hold, hundreds of people at a time, which is one of my biggest gripes about losing it, is because that park has no more people eaters. I mean, all right, you got Little Mermaid back open, you got the villain show going for you now, but taking away attractions that hold hundreds of people, or trams that hold 50 or 100 at a time, or a car stunt show that holds several thousand, and replacing them with 6-seater cars. Looking at you, Rise of the Resistance and Smuggler's Run. But it doesn't matter because we can sell lightning lanes, can't we?
Look, I'm not going to get into this. I understand why they made some of those decisions, and some of those rides have been incredible. But talking specifically about MuppetVision, the fact that it was something that was so ingrained in MGM Studios, the fact that it was the last thing that Jim Henson worked on before he passed away, we all knew this was going to happen because for the better part of 5 to 7 years, they've been teasing, Muppets might be going away because Disney doesn't know what to do with them anyway.
And you and I also did have our just-in-case day.
Yes.
Back when, I think it was like September we went, low crowds. There was nobody there. It was dead. So, we got our pictures. We made our peace with it just in case.
But we knew ahead of time that it was going to be closing. And thankfully for us, the date that they announced the closure was not a blackout date for us. So you went ahead and made us that reso for the last day that the attraction was going to be open. It was the first time since 1994 that I had seen a line like that for MuppetVision 3D.
Same for Disney because the queue was open. When was the last time you did that queue?
I haven't done it since 2003, maybe. But here's the thing.
I don't know that you and I have ever done it together.
We haven't. But for those that go, I'm so sad that it's closing. It was never more than a 10-minute wait. It's like, that's when things close. In Disney's defense.
Yeah.
When something is no longer popular, that's when it closes. It's great that we loved it for the nostalgia, but for those that loved it because it was a quote-unquote short wait, that is always going to be an attraction that's in the crosshairs. Because they would rather now they're putting Monsters, Inc., right? Which is fine. I think Monsters, Inc. deserves its own land. Personally, I think it is a timeless franchise. But they would rather stick Moana somewhere. They'd rather stick Monsters, Inc. somewhere. They'd rather you wait an hour because that means that it's popular and in demand. They don't want your walk-on because a walk-on means nobody cares, which means it's irrelevant. And because, as Walt had said, these parks are always going to be evolving, this is unfortunately one of those casualties. Now, there's been a lot of smoke in the last few weeks that perhaps this is not the end of MuppetVision 3D, and I don't like to be a part of the rumor mill, but I think it's worth talking about because Disney will monetize anything. Disney will make money off of every... Disney did farewell merchandise for Ellen's Energy Adventure.
Yeah.
That's not a joke.
No.
They did absolutely zilch, zero, nothing for MuppetVision, which, for all intents and purposes, has a much more loyal fan base and a more passionate fan base than the Energy Adventure did. And they didn't sell any merchandise. Kind of leads you to believe that maybe MuppetVision isn't really gone. It's just moving somewhere else.
Well, before we get into all that, I do want to talk about our last go on it and our last experience in the courtyard. I want to focus on the past before we move into the future. And I do want to say, I was obviously very sad for all the reasons that you mentioned. First and foremost, it being one of the last things that Jim Henson had ever worked on. It's one of the last sound stages, which is what really upset me, because for me, this was really the death knell of everything that made me fall in love with that park initially. I'm talking about MGM. And I realized as we were going through, because at the end, obviously they do the fireworks. I don't know if it was, if there was a delay or I was just expecting them to go off earlier, but there's part of me that was afraid that they were letting it go and that they weren't going to go off. And it dawns on me that I was like, Bug's Life is gone now. This is the last of its kind of a 3D show where it's interacting with the audience. I mean, Waldorf and Statler are obviously their own thing where they're interacting with the audience, but like, we're not promised. We know Zootopia is going to be a 3D show, but with all of the new tech, this was the last of its kind. Like, this was 90s technology that we had for Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. We had it for Captain EO. We had it for Bug's Life. And there was like one in each park.
Yeah.
And now I think it's sort of dated technology. And I think that Zootopia is going to be an upgrade. I just don't think there's going to be anything like this anymore. I will say, one of the things I always bumped on was that you have Sweetums in the theater, and then you see him in the video behind. And that was always like a huge no-no, even working at Chuck E. Cheese. You don't want to see him in the video and out on the floor at the same time. So it sort of broke the illusion. And I thought maybe in the way of an upgrade, maybe just reshoot it so you don't have everybody in 90s clothes for that last shot when the wall breaks open. But I don't know. I always thought it was going to be safe, especially because, and I think this is what people are forgetting, the people that are, lashing out, I can't believe that you take it away, because now I sound like one of them. But I think what people are forgetting is that it was only ever the 3D show. Pizza Rizzo replaced Pizza Planet. Gonzo's Royal Flush was from Siegel's Muppets. The Muppets didn't get their due until Jason Segel breathed life into them in 2011. And then they redid that courtyard, and then they gave them their whole area. So to circle it all back around for you, I think because of the backlash, I kind of agree with you that maybe it's not gone forever. But to me, it's like, why didn't you just leave it? If you wanted to give the Muppets a coaster, you could have put one in the existing courtyard. Why do you have to move it over to Rock and Roller Coaster? And then I think this is where you were going, is once Villain's Land opens at Magic Kingdom, you're not going to need this villain show. You could technically put it over there.
Yeah, and
have them rebuild the courtyard, essentially.
This villain show is in a space that's historically been used for short-term rental, basically. Nothing has ever really lasted there.
Lightning McQueen was the longest run. It was a Pirates show before then. Lightning was like the longest runner that they had.
But if you think about it, when they did it with Pirates, that was before, I think, I may be wrong about this, but that was before they did a lot of the things that they were doing over at Shanghai with some of the projections.
Correct.
I think that they test things in that room, and then they become something else. I'm fine with them moving the Muppets to Rock and Roller Coaster. The licensing with Aerosmith, especially with them having signed their catalog over to Universal, that was due to come to an end. So that's fine. I think you can easily retrofit Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem in there. I think that it's because it's the only real thrill ride in that park other than Tower of Terror. I think that it's going to expose these characters to a new audience because people don't look at Disney sometimes as a place where you go for attractions. They're like, well, where's the ride? They look at
thrill.
They look at it like it's Six Flags or Knott's Berry Farm or King's Dominion. I just want my ride.
Right.
They don't look at it as an attraction. But for a younger demographic that doesn't know these characters, they're going to learn who these characters are. So I think putting them there is great for the Muppets long term. All of that said, you have this space that is habitually being used for testing things out, and I think with the backlash being what it was, it just doesn't make sense that Disney did not merchandise this, that they didn't monetize on it. It tells me that they're going to move. I believe in my heart of hearts we haven't seen the end of Muppets Vision 3D. I don't think that we've seen the end of them in that park other than Rock and Roller Coaster, of course. We might not get Pizza Rizzo again, which frankly is fine.
Nobody's really going to miss that pizza.
Some people do, and I don't understand why.
It was fluffy, but I don't know. Call us New York pizza elitists, but I'll wear that badge proudly in this case.
Listen, I will eat from Little Caesars, and it's fine. I don't understand the appeal of Pizza Rizzo personally, but from a theming perspective, and we did get to see the wedding room, and I get it, because we did dine there on our last day. I get it. If there's a nostalgia thing there for you, that's for you, right? That's fine. Some people don't understand why I care so much about something we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but that's all well and good. I just don't think that the food was that great. So, do I think we're going to get the repeat of Pizza Rizzo? No. But do I think that we've seen the end of MuppetVision 3D at Hollywood Studios, MGM? No, I don't. And I don't think we've seen the end of Muppets Courtyard.
I think that you make a very strong case, and I do agree with you. It is feasible. What I bump on, though, is that you're theming Rock and Roller Coaster off of a television show that you canceled off of one season. So that's where I'm like, are you really going to do right by it? Because for now, it just feels like you're appeasing the backlash. I feel like they, because let's not forget, they announced Monsters, Inc. was coming. They didn't, this was at D23. They didn't announce where. That's when all of the speculation started. That's when you and I did our Just In Case Day, because people were matching up the concept art to the physical buildings of Muppets Courtyard. So I think they had Dr. Teeth in the back of their minds, just in case of the backlash. And because there was so much backlash, they were like, all right, here you go. But it does feel very much like a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. With all that being said, if that's how we get to keep Muppets Courtyard down the line, then fine. As for what I brought up earlier about why not just give them a roller coaster and leave Muppets Courtyard where it was, here's my theory. I think this Pixar land that they were supposed to do ages ago, that's what's really not dead. Because this was remember when Iger used to say, let's not do carbon copies of things, because then what incentive do people have to go to both parks? This was way before Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
They were supposed to give us a similar Cars land. Now, because you have Toy Story Land, I don't think there's enough room to do it. However, if you look at the map, which the one time that the My Disney Experience app has ever worked, the update was immediate on Sunday after they closed the section part. It was all trees. I was like, the one time this app functions, really, you took it away already. You couldn't even screen grab it. There's enough room where you have Toy Story Land, you have Midway Mania, you have Pixar Place, where you have the meet and greet with the Incredibles. You could very easily turn the Incredibles meet and greet into something. You could probably put an attraction. Maybe it's an Incredibles attraction, maybe it's a different Pixar movie. There's a little bit of a grassy area behind those sound stages that backs up to Galaxy's Edge where you could probably fit a queue. Then all of that area opens up and flows into Monsters, Inc. So it would be a Pixar-themed land. And then, hear me out, this is going to make me very unpopular. We don't need this much Star Wars in one park. You take Star Tours.
Oh, don't do it.
Oh, yes, I'm going to do it. I will even sacrifice my Inside Out at Body Wars and put it there. And then you have an entire Pixar, it wraps all the way around. If you look at the map, you could fit it all in. And then you have one, if we have to keep being fully immersive, you have your fully immersive Pixar land.
It's not that I think that couldn't happen. It's just that I think that if you do that, you've just sent the death knell in for the Backlot Express and for the Indiana Jones stunt show. That's the problem.
The backlot I do worry about. I'm honest. And really, Indiana Jones and Gertie are the last men standing. If they take Gertie away, you will find me chained to one of her legs.
They won't do it.
You will have to drag me out of it. I'm getting trespassed if they try to take her.
Well, I'll enjoy going to Disney by myself.
Good. Enjoy your Monsters, Inc.
You know what we did enjoy? Something that we haven't done, which was wait online an hour for pressed pennies. That was something that was new. But I'm glad that we did, because I had sort of half-jokingly said when we were waiting on this line Disney's probably laughing all the way to the bank over these things because knowing them, they'll leave this here for 6 months. It was the first thing they took away after they closed MuppetVision.
I really thought that's why they didn't do merch, because they made first of all, the pressed penny machine, I can't even tell you the last time I did it. You don't need quarters. You don't even need your own pennies anymore.
Yeah, I brought like $8 worth of spare change, by the way. I didn't know that this is how it goes now.
No, it's a credit card. It's a credit card transaction. So I thought the same thing. I was like, surely this is why they didn't do merch and they're going to leave this thing here until Monsters Inc. open. No. That and my Disney experience were the first two things to go. However, we got a set of pressed pennies for ourselves.
Sure did.
And we did not forget about our listeners. We got a set for you too. So stay tuned. If you can stay with all of the ranting and raving, we will tell you how you can enter to win that at the end of the episode.
So, moving on from one studio to another, let's go back down the road over to Universal Studios Florida and the Mega Movie Parade. Now, when we talked about the Mega Movie Parade last year, it's noteworthy that that parade started at 6 p.m. last year. And we had kind of thought, I don't think we really said it on the show, but we had thought to ourselves, gee, that seems a little late for a parade. Mm-hmm. We didn't mind because we were staying for the drone show anyway, for Cinesational. They've moved the parade back to 2 p.m. So there is an update for you that if you are going to be going to Universal and this is something that you want to plan into your day, they did slide it back to 2 o'clock, which makes sense. Middle of the day, break it up a little bit. I was surprised they didn't do that last time, but they've done it now. And with some updates, actually. And that was why we were excited to go back, because we talked... When we saw the show last year, we talked in our Dockside chat about how there were things that were to come that they hadn't yet done, because we had still seen it, and it was still in technical rehearsal, actually, but it's not in technical rehearsal anymore, and they've made good on some of the things that they promised they were going to do.
We weren't supposed to see it in technical rehearsal.
Correct.
There was a little bit of a delay. It was still great, but we knew that Ecto 1 was supposed to be in the parade, and we never got to see that, so we wanted to see it full out. The updates that they made were absolutely incredible. They added, they added a couple more dancers.
Yes.
They added, for Back to the Future, they had a couple of skaters around on hoverboards, which was very, very cool. I can't remember if we didn't see them the last time or if this was an ad. Roy Schneider and the mayor from Jaws, they had them walking around ahead of the float. They might have been there last time, but I don't remember because the float stalled, and I was just so obsessed with how well Quint was holding it down. Even though he was stranded in one spot, he just kept moving and kept reacting to the shark. It was great. Ecto 1.
Ecto 1 was unbelievable.
The bucket seat with Phoebes. Oh my god. It was so incredible. And
the little marshmallow men. And the casting for this parade is unbelievable. As soon as we saw Ghostbusters casting, I said, man, that's really good. But I said to you when Jurassic Park came around, with one of the best floats in terms of animatronics that I've ever seen with the Velociraptors, I said to you, I have never seen a better looking in terms of screen accurate casting than the girl that they have hired for that parade that looks just like Bryce Dallas Howard. I mean, at a glance, she is Bryce Dallas Howard. It's unbelievable how uncanny she is.
The lost triplet of Bryce Dallas Howard and Jessica Chastain. The three of them.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Yeah, she looked unbelievable. The added float was so cool with the Velociraptors.
They might be the best animatronics I've ever seen, actually.
I'm guessing that's why they didn't have it the first time around. Either they were still trying to get it to work, or seeing if this parade had legs and people were into it.
Well, it's got legs, folks.
It absolutely is. It's I don't usually go Google for parades unless it's a nighttime parade at Disney. I love Festival of Fantasy for what it is, but I'm not obsessing over, I need to go see this character. The Mega Movie Parade makes me giddy. Literally giddy. I don't usually get like this. for whatever reason, E.T. was not in this go-around. It's still here. They just didn't have that parade float go. And then the other ad that I saw, I was really hoping that the T-Rex in Jurassic Park would have the goat. So while they didn't add a full or half goat, there's goat remnants in his teeth, and that was enough for me.
You were very excited.
I was thrilled
to see the goat remnants. And then we went and got the milkshakes that they had over at Schwab's Pharmacy, which were for Back to the Future, celebrating its 40th anniversary. They were, I mean, when you think about what it costs to get a milkshake in a park, I think they were about $8 a piece, and I thought that was reasonable. And they didn't come out of a machine pre-made. Like, they were handmade with a blender. They were excellent.
Haagen-Dazs ice cream. You can get it with either, I think, Rocky Road or vanilla. They have two shakes that you can get for Back to the Future. We both went with the rock and roll themed one.
Yeah.
The outside of the store, it's all decked out with like stickers, advertisements for the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Doc is more present than I've ever seen.
So good to see Doc.
He scared me. I was like, are you training us for horror nights? He scared the life out of me when he
looked so good.
He was great.
And he just shows up and he walks around.
He was so great. Well timed though, not the same time that the parade is going on.
They knew to pull him away right before the parade started.
But this was a really, really good shake. And then we walked it over to Amity because they were also celebrating. Look at this, what happens when a park honors its legacy. We were also celebrating the 50th anniversary of Jaws. So they had added photo ops, they had all added different food and beverage options. And what I never knew was in the candy store at Amity, they do have a set piece. It's a little teeny tiny piece of the orca, but it is a screen used prop, not from the ride, it's from the actual movie, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I was wearing my Jaws shirt, so a very nice team member saw that and he gave us express passes.
Yes. It was not the only express pass that we had gotten that day. I went to go ride Ghostbusters, the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. I've never been on Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, and I'm a roller coaster guy, and every time I've tried to get on it, it's either been broken down, which is not uncommon for the ride, or held up because of weather, which is not uncommon for the ride. So I went on single rider and waited about 20 minutes and was the next one to load on when they had lightning within 5 miles and they held the ride up. And I waited about another 20 minutes because we didn't have rain in the forecast, but lightning was close enough. And something that really impressed me about the team member at Universal, by that point, most people had left. There were about 7 of us that were still hanging around because it's Florida, folks. Like, there's lightning within 5 miles all the time. It was the hope that the lightning had cleared and we would just get right on. They came out with express passes for everybody that waited on the platform and said, folks, take these and go enjoy the park. You spent your time, you spent your money. We don't want to see you just standing here. Go enjoy what you paid for and come back and see us when the ride is open. And I went, wow, that was really cool. So when the ride did reopen, I used my express pass. I got right on the ride. And with Rip Ride Rocket, you get to select the song that you would like to hear on the ride. And it's done basically, I think it's on first come, first serve. And I had some ideas in my head, like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have, like, AC/DC
or like,
something like that.
Ghostbusters.
Which
I'm sure is what all of our listeners think that you would have selected.
There's also a hidden menu, and I didn't have the wherewithal to pull up the hidden menu. But then I had a moment where I thought, gee, wouldn't it be funny to put on, like, a ridiculous song like they have sometimes on Guardians? Like, Conga is not something that I anticipate hearing on a roller coaster, but you hear it and you just laugh because it's a fun, cheesy song. Well, something came up on my screen, and I said, oh, wouldn't it be funny if? And I pushed the button and figured there's no way it's the one that's going to go through. So, the ride starts, and we start to go up the lift hill, and all of a sudden, Waterloo by ABBA starts to play, and I laughed for the entire ride because I couldn't believe the ridiculous song that I picked for my own entertainment was the one that actually played on the ride.
You probably ruined somebody's vacation. Like, that's what I'm thinking of, is the once-in-a-lifetime trip. And they're so happy to be here. And this is like their one shot to ride Rip Ride Rocket before it closes.
No, the Simpsons attraction ruined their vacation. I didn't need to worry about that. The ride is definitely showing its age. So I think it's time for something new. And I think we know who we're going to call when it comes to a new attraction.
I mean, look, the signage says we're doing work to our historic firehouse. I don't know what's going to be more exciting, if you get your Ghostbusters coaster or if I get Wicked.
I'll put it to you this way.
It's going to be tough.
I'll go on record right now. When Ray Parker Jr. played at Epcot, you challenged me to show up to the concert in my full flight suit, and I said no. If we are getting a Ghostbusters coaster, I will show up full flight suit. I can't bring my pack in, but I'll show up full flight suit if we're getting a Ghostbusters coaster. You can tattoo it on my arm. If we get a coaster, for the first ride, I will show up full flight suit.
I'll make you a deal. If I get a Wicked Land, or even if I get it for Horror Nights, if there's a house, or if I get my pink and green coconut club, I'll go full green.
It's the least you owe me for being Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah, it is.
You're also banking on something that's not coming.
You've not fed me enough margaritas for that kind of talk.
I think Wicked Land is going to eventually take over the Marvel area at Islands of Adventure, but I don't think you're getting a Horror Nights area.
It would be easy to retrofit that coaster.
Yeah.
If you want to do like a Defy Gravity. Yeah. It's already green.
Yeah. And they just put new cars on it, just did a refurb on it. Anyway.
All right, I'll give you that
Let's talk about where we went for dinner, which has become now a new favorite.
No, you're skipping a Universal experience.
Am I?
Sorry just because you didn't get to go, but I work hard. We got to
No. We're still not... You calm down. You're right, I didn't give you enough tequila. All right, relax. Golly. We went to Cowfish, folks. It was delicious.
I thought you were skipping the dinner tonight. No.
Oh, my Lord.
Cowfish,
Joking aside, though, let's talk about Cowfish.
Cowfish is really one of our favorites. I dare say not just at Universal, well, certainly at Universal.
Yes.
But it's quickly climbing the ranks to one of our favorites in Orlando. We almost didn't do it so that you could get on Rip Ride Rocket, but like the universe was smiling at us that day because we got in everything. What I didn't know is that there's a third tier, because we were still there during daylight. It was very hot. I didn't want to sit at the outside bar. The inside bar was full. There's a third level and another bar up top, and that's where we ended up. It was great, as always. It's a great concept. I love the mashup. The fusion food is great.
Yeah.
And we've been there twice now, and it's so consistent. It's great, and the staff is wonderful as well.
Staff's wonderful. I don't eat sushi. You do. You thought for the money we spent, you had a copious amount of sushi.
Oh my God! For $25, I was expecting 8 pieces. I think that's like typical of what you get. This was a 10-piece roll. But there were 3 different types of fish. It was like a California roll, but they did it with either salmon or yellow tuna, yellowtail and tuna. And I forget what they put on top of it because it wasn't roe, but they had like a bubble on top of it.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was crunchy. It was everything that I wanted it to be, and it was so filling. For $25, but I left there full.
Yeah, and I did that bacon cheeseburger with some of the best Parmesan fries I've ever had. The Parmesan truffle fries at Cowfish. Oh man, they are so delicious. Like, I can't speak highly enough about it. And worth noting, when we had gone there the first time, I felt the service was good from the bartenders. I felt the food delivery was a little slow. This was much faster. So food came out piping hot. just everything I wanted it to be and more. So yeah, Calfish now is in the regular rotation, and I think it's important to note that there is literally something there for everybody.
Yeah.
The same can be said for where we ate tonight.
Wait, now you're really jumping the shark. Are you messing with me?
No, I'm messing with you at this point.
All right, maybe I have had enough tequila. Well, I had moonshine before this. So I got to go back to Universal that same week because all of KMV Travel was invited, but not everybody lives locally, so unfortunately we didn't get the whole team to go, but we were invited to an advanced screening of How to Train Your Dragon, and this is what I was referring to before when I was talking about shot-for-shot remakes. Full disclosure, we only recently jumped on the How to Train Your Dragon train. God, say that 3 times
The Dragon
fast.
Wagon.
The Dragon.
We're only just joining on
Wagon.
Jumped on the Dragon Wagon.
That's so much easier, especially considering that you've called it How to Kill Your Dragon.
How I Met Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. But being that, we've been getting Epic Universe training videos for like a year out. So knowing that they were doing the Isle of Berk, I was like, I really have to watch this movie to get a good feel of the land. And also because I've heard nothing but incredible things about it. How good the story is, how great the animation is. I mean, it's DreamWorks, right? Like, you're getting a good movie.
And it's phenomenal.
It really, we really, really love the animation. And then I started hearing all these wonderful things about the live action. In its infancy, then the backlash started with, you did a shot-for-shot remake. You're insulting your audience. You are just doing this as a cash grab. You're not adding to the story. It's the same thing. Why would I spend my money on it when I've already seen it? Which way do we want it, folks?
We want it every way.
Well, yeah.
The internet wants it every way.
I will say this. It was freaking incredible. It was so well acted. The costumes, the CGI was phenomenal, and that's not something I say about movies very often, but it was wonderful. They didn't make changes to the story, but gosh darn if it doesn't pull on your heartstrings all over again, even though you know exactly what's going to happen. And that score. I mean, I'm probably going to cry in Epic Universe just because that score is so darn powerful, but it was wonderful. We had a really great time, and then we went over to the NBC Grill, which I had never been inside before, because you walk by and it's like, that'd be a cool place to go catch a game. But what I didn't know, the tables inside are so cool because they have high top tables that seat 8 people like you would at any other bar, but they're a glass top, and you have either air hockey or foosball or backgammon underneath them.
So it's a place you can go play foosball with your friends.
Yeah, but it's such a smart concept so that you don't have a pool table over here and then you got to leave your drinks and your bags.
Yeah.
It's all one. I definitely want to go and hang there.
Twist my arm. Get me into a good sports bar, I'll be happy.
No, I mean, I would totally go watch a Yankee game there. Actually, you know what? If we go to Game 7 for the Stanley Cup, I would think about it. It was pretty cool.
How was Cinemark?
Oh, it was great. I'd been to Cinemark in Manhattan, but I was working a film festival, and that was one of our theaters, so I didn't get to experience the whole thing. But the theater was really nice. The chairs were super comfy. It was clean. This one was very grand, though, because the whole inside, I mean, you see the full round outside, but it's just as big inside. And they have 2 massive escalators that, it's fully open, that get you up to the first level of screens.
Yeah.
So it's really big on the inside, but it was really nice, and the staff was very nice too.
Yeah,
I had gotten there it was starting right at 10, so I was right up against it. They got me in quickly. They showed me exactly where to go because they were also doing a screening for team members that day. Okay. So they had a separate one for agencies and their families, but they got me right where I needed to be.
It's one of the first things you see when you get to City Walk over at Universal, so I was curious as to how it stacked up. It's good to hear. Certainly I think we can plan on going to see perhaps one of the new Universal films coming out soon.
I would love to do Jurassic Park there, because I'll tell you this, it was way nicer than AMC here. We've only seen a couple of movies here. Every time, I hate to say it, the theater is trash, but that's more of an indictment on AMC than it is on Disney Springs.
Yes.
Just popcorn everywhere. It's not very clean. This was
Spotless.
Flawless. Yeah,
Cool.
It was great.
Let's talk about Polite Pig, because that's where we went tonight before we came to sit for this conversation. Polite Pig is a consistent crowd pleaser for both you and I. There is something for everybody on the menu, whether you want traditional barbecue, whether you want to play it a little safer. If you want bourbon, you can get it. If you want beer, a really good craft beer, and they have their own beer on draft there, they have it.
If you get a nice bartender, you can order one thing, they let you sample another, just because you were curious.
But I had a Caesar salad with smoked chicken on top. And I'd gone in my whole day, I'm like, I'm getting meatballs, they're my favorite, I'll get a bunch of sides. And then when I saw that they had smoked chicken that you could add to the Caesar, it totally changed the game. Super affordable. I think out the door, $20. It was a massive portion of Caesar salad in a big stainless steel bowl.
It looks like the bowl that they make the dressing in and then mix in the romaine.
It was so good.
It was huge.
The romaine was so fresh and crisp.
Huge.
Oh my god, it was one of the best Caesars I've ever had, and the chicken was so ridiculously flavorful. And then I added on the crispy Brussels sprouts, which were phenomenal, and you snacked on those as a side to your dish.
They are. I mean, we talked about Brussels sprouts a lot the last Dockside chat, because Shula's was great, Toledo was great. I think that rounds out the top three. Because I had almost forgotten about these, but that's a solid top three. I kind of went in open mind tonight. I usually get pork when we go to Polite Pig, but I ended up doing the turkey BLT, which was like
a last minute decision. You just said, I think I'm going to get this, and then you threw the order in.
It was kind of a pivot. It wasn't where I expected to be, but I'm really glad that I went there, because is this a joke or is this a brawl happening at our hang here?
This is a joke.
I think it's a joke. Okay.
It's a joke.
All right. That could have gone a lot of ways. Anyway.
I'm so glad we don't have to fill out paperwork right now.
No, we've already seen enough. Remember when we went to Splitsville? Well, we were at Everglades, and then we saw it was terrible. It was like a domestic abuse case.
It was, the cops
really
were there.
bad.
It was a whole thing.
Yeah, like Orange County sheriffs were there. It was wild. Anyway, wow, off topic. Back to my turkey BLT. It seems it's just
what a ridiculous
trivial
statement to
at
make.
this point.
What a ridiculous thing to say.
Yeah, it's trivial.
Nothing's happening right now. These are people that are just having fun on their vacation. Now talk about your sandwich.
She looked like she was going to climb over the window. I really didn't know if it was a joke or not. You didn't see that.
Well, they're having fun. Talk about your sandwich.
So Polite Pig's twist on the BLT is not just that they put turkey on it. It is a bacon jam.
Yeah.
And a mayo. It was so good. And it wasn't too heavy. Like, usually, like, if you get a brisket sandwich or a pork, like, you're leaving there very, very full.
Can I ask you something?
I'm comfy, of course.
See, the roll that it was on, now I didn't try it. It almost looked like a puff pastry or like a crescent roll that you get at Thanksgiving. Like, it didn't look like a brioche bun. It kind of had that, like, very flaky look to it. Like,
no, it
how
wasn't
would you describe
flaky,
it?
it was doughy.
Was it really?
It was really doughy.
Because it didn't look like it.
Yeah. No, it really wasn't too flaky. It was more, like, it should have, like, honestly, this thing should be sitting on me right now for how
that's why I
dense
wanted to ask.
Yeah, but it was still pretty light.
You're talking about it
really, really
like
good.
it was a fairly comfortable dish, and that's what I noticed about the roll. And I thought maybe they were kind of playing off that idea of, like, you know, a fresh bake, like Thanksgiving dinner roll. You know,
that's exactly what it was, because it was. The sandwich was a good size. I didn't get a side. I picked at a couple of your Brussels sprouts, but, like, this was not the occasion for, like, mac and cheese or anything like that. I couldn't even handle my own side of Brussels sprouts because it was a large sandwich. But, like, that is a really good bang for your buck option over at Polite Pig. And then I also pivoted because normally I love the apple cider. It's a whiskey sour, but I love it in the fall.
Yeah.
I've had the sangria. It's great. I went rogue again. I got the punch, which has moonshine in it. And our lovely bartender, Ricardo, offered me seconds. I was like, I'm not doing that and recording and chasing it with a margarita. But what I did chase it with, because I was telling him how much I was enjoying the drink, he offered the lemonade.
There was a
it's
sweet
like an
tea old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned, yeah. Not with vodka, which is really what sold me, because since it's an old-fashioned, they make it with the bourbon. That was so good.
It was very tasty. They explain the kind of process. I don't want to give it away, but they explain the process in which they made this. And like when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. It was quite delicious. I would go and enjoy my own. I think we are going to try and enjoy a nightcap because we did kind of record, like the sun's not even down yet. Like we tried to record a little early tonight, and I'm glad that we did. And that was part of that was a method to our madness too. Was as we were wrapping up our meal, we could see how busy Polite Pig was getting. So sliding in there for an early dinner around 5 o'clock or so really timed out beautifully for us.
But that's also why we chose Polite Pig, because obviously we know, and stay tuned, listeners, because on our next episode, you know what's coming. It is Flavors of Florida time. We could not be more excited. It is the only thing I enjoy about summer in Florida. Otherwise, it's just hot. But I'll suck it up and hang out in Disney Springs for Flavors of Florida. But that was why we wanted to do something a little bit quicker tonight. Disney Springs, a couple of the restaurants actually rolled out a whole bunch of new dishes. Like Maria and Enzo's has this amazing looking lasagna. The Edison has a whole bunch of new dishes, and I did want to try them. But for tonight, we didn't necessarily want to get locked into a whole sit-down meal. That way we could walk about. And it is Bloomsday over at Raglan Road, which is for James Joyce's novel Ulysses. They celebrate Bloomsday over there. So we're going to go see what that's all about because they have a half-price pint.
Which I'm excited to try. In the meantime, we did promise you a giveaway. We talked before about how we have the pressed pennies from MuppetVision 3D. We have the full set of pressed pennies from that machine. Of course, we are going to pair that with one of the wonderful straw charms from our dear friends over at the Hidden Mickey Supply Co. And I've been thinking about like how to tie all of it together. And when I think about MuppetVision, other than nostalgia, I think about the community that the Muppets have brought together. Specifically, the community that came and rallied behind them on that final day. So much enthusiasm, standing ovations, hooting and hollering, people, whether you like it or not, crying or reciting the lines with the show, which I get it can be annoying, but you know what, in that moment, it's almost like a celebration of life. I hate to put it on those terms.
Oh, gosh.
But that's really what it was. And just seeing how all of that came together and the crescendo on that entire night was video has come out of people that were gathering outside the attraction right before it closed, and they all spontaneously sang Rainbow Connection together. So I'm going to say the first person that DMs us or emails us the word rainbow will get the straw charm courtesy of the Hidden Mickey Supply Co., as well as that full set of crushed pennies celebrating the 34 wonderful years of MuppetVision 3D over at MGM / whatever you want to call it, Hollywood Studios.
That's also very fitting for Pride Month.
That is the other thing.
Word.
I'm looking at, they have the Show Your Pride all over Disney Springs right now, and so I think just like it just encompasses everything so very well. So that is going to be the word. First person that does that is going to get that prize pack. Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate us on your podcast platform of choice. Be sure to follow us on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio if you are looking to come down and experience any of the attractions that we have discussed. Jackie can certainly help get you there, and links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. For Jackie, I am Sean. Have a magical week, everyone.